One of Eagle, Wisconsin's most remarkable figures was Orin Benson, a nationally acclaimed animal trainer whose legacy rippled through the world of field trials, boarding shows, and Hollywood lore. Born in 1914, Orin Benson was more than a dog trainer. He was a pioneer, a showman, and a storyteller. From his early days at Boalt Kennels to founding his own training facility right here in Eagle, Orin drew clients from coast to coast, including celebrities like Roy Rogers, Joan Crawford, and even Prince Philip of England. He trained timber wolves, foxes, skunks, porcupines, hawks, and even bears for movies, performances, and the occasional prank. Here is an interview from Eagle, Wisconsin in 1990.
This is Irma Jolliff. I'm here for the Historical Society of Eagle, and I'll now turn it over to Joan. And this is Orin Benson.
Orin, I'm sure that many people know of you, have heard about you. We'd like to find out from you just more about your life. Were you born and raised in this area in Eagle? Where did you come from?
No, I was born and raised in Minnesota, on a farm in Minnesota, White Bear Lake, Minnesota.
White Bear Lake?
White Bear Lake, Minnesota, right out of St. Paul.
And then when and why did you come to Wisconsin?
Well, I've been an animal man all my life. I started training cow dogs as a youngster on the farm.
Was your family, was your father an animal trainer?
Just to,
How did you become interested then?
well, the farms have animals.
Right?
Yeah.
Cows and horses.
Of course, I had them all, and my birds, my pigeons. I had everything on the farm, and naturally, I just absorbed an awful lot of that kind of likeness to the animals.
Were you a dairy farm?
Yes, on a dairy farm. And we had cows to go way out in the 40s to get them, to bring them back to milking. So I made little dogs go out and do that for me. I mean, that was like the days of the cow dogs. That's what started me on my love to know what an animal can be. Naturally, on a farm, you have all kinds of wildlife and everything.
Do you remember the first cow dog or the first time that you would have worked with a dog to help you with the cows?
Yes, it was an old crossbred. I mean, well, we call them old ships. They were a collie type dog, but they didn't have the long pointed show nose and all that. But they were tough. They were never leashed in their life, but we call them old ships. So we had an old one. I think the first one that I remembered that did this when I was just, oh gosh, I wasn't 10 years old or more. I was just, and that dog was constantly with me all the time, called an old dog called Cooley. And um, that one there absorbed all the life of the farm. When we'd get up, we'd start for the cows, it knew that. It didn't have to have a command to tell. You didn't tell it what to do. It just absorbed all the antics that you did.
So it was watching you and you would bring the cows, so the dog was smart enough.
Right. And so if the dog would happen to see me run to get behind one, the dog would do it first. And well, that's what started me. If you show an animal what you want done, he'll do it. So there was no books on training at that time.
When was this, Orin?
Oh boy. Well, I'm 76 now, so that must have been when I was grade school.
1920,
Yeah, in the
Okay.
in the early 20s.
the early 20s. So,
Yeah.
and so people at that time were not obedience training. There
Well,
wasn't.
no, we didn't have the tape recorders or electrical thing. We had kerosene lights and lanterns, wood stoves, and there was no electricity in our farms when we were young. And I remember when that was all introduced.
Okay.
But everything was done by hand. The wood was cut by hands and axes, and stove wood for the cooking, and,
Right.
and big chunks for the furnace. And
But then, okay, you got interested in training and working with this dog on the farm. But then when did you come to Wisconsin and when did you really get into the commercial side, if I can
well,
call it that?
in 19 um, well, I was on a big place, and I loved to hunt too. So a neighbor saw me out with a couple of. Well, I trapped a lot and did a lot of things with other dogs too.
So then Minnesota.
Minnesota, yes. So, and I made sled dogs out of a couple of big Airedales. And, well, this person saw me with all that, and then I tried to hunt with an old crossbred German Shepherd. So she said, "What you need is a good hunting dog." So she bought me a Springer Spaniel. And oh gosh, it was afraid of the gun. So I spent all summer with even from breaking bags to slapping leather straps together to make noise.
How old were you then? In your teens?
Oh gosh, I wasn't that old yet.
Okay, so
Oh, that was yeah, I was
13, 14.
sure somewhere
Okay,
in there. Sure.
okay.
And then well, that gradually grew up, and then so I got a fondness of liking the dogs. On a good dog was a registered Springer Spaniel.
Okay.
Well, then on the on the hunting side, that was the days of my first year of training live ducks for decoys. I trained ducks to stay in a harness. My dad had a big lakefront there, and he had a boat livery. So I would train these mallard ducks about to not fight the harness, so that when a hunter would buy them, he could take out, and these ducks that I had trained would call the wild ones in instead of the old hand mouth horns like that. And then we called them call ducks, is what that started out. So for hunting and that, well, naturally you have to have a dog to go out when you hunt to retrieve the ducks that you've downed. So that started me in the gun dog training home on the farm. Finally, I had too many dogs. Everybody, their friends would see me, ask me to work with their dog. So finally, for about $5 a month, I would take the dog and feed it and keep it and spend some time with it for about $5, $10 a month. And we made some pretty good dogs out of it but I didn't have any money to go. All that money that I got went to help buy some feed, but we made our own. We brewed our own mash and we cooked their vegetables. And I
But you were still on the farm, so
put on the
basically,
farm. So in the early 30s, well, I graduated in 31, something like that. And then the same person that I bought that give me the Springer Spaniel, I got into another one, and they were from Anoka, Minnesota. So he moved to Ohio, North Olmsted, Ohio. So he wanted somebody that loved the dogs to help him in the kennel. So I left the farm and the milking of the cows and the cultivating and the mowing and everything else of the farm chores. I left the farm in my early 30s and went down to work with him in the kennel. That gave me the lessons which there's no school to go to
okay.
learn that.
This was in Ohio?
North Olmsted, Ohio, and that's right out of Cleveland.
Okay.
So then I worked with him grooming and learning the cosmetics of taking care of a dog when they have what they call bench shows.
Mm.
They've got to be groomed in the hair and the nails and the ears, and then you have to teach them to lead to proper way so they show off the best. That I've got that training. Then I felt so sorry for the spaniels, the setters, the pointers, and all of them that never got a chance to hunt because they're nothing but a beauty show. Gosh, out here I had these wonderful hunting dogs, and my love for the outdoors was still there. So I come back home up to Minnesota to the farm, and right next door to the farm was a little place that I could go. I had an old 1921 Model T Ford. It was my first dog wagon. So we'd go around. I didn't have a kennel or a building, but there was a little cottage up off the edge of the farm. So I went up there and sat up in there, and um, we'd go out with this old Model T in the mornings. Well, a very fashionable neighborhood of White Bear Lake to Dulwich, where a lot of the Minneapolis, St. Paul industrialists had their big homes. Well, they had dogs too, but nobody would help them with their Labradors or any kind of a dog. So I'd go over in the morning in this old Model T, load up, and I'd stop down by the driveway by the road, blow that little Model T horn, and the maid would let the dog out, and the dog would run down, and they'd all jump in my Model T, and I'd take them over to the farm. No kennel, and they all got along like a bunch of kids. They'd have a fight once in a while too, but then I'd school them.
So you were like running a pickup, so you were running a school, like
A
we know
school like that,
kids,
go
yeah.
pick them up. Well, you couldn't do it all day long. So in the meantime, I still had my cultivating to do and my work on the farm. Had to do that too. So then about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I would I'd take them all home again. And all I had to do was let the dogs out, and they'd run back up to where they belonged. I didn't have to deliver them; just open the door and yell at them, and out they'd go. And they'd
It
go
was really a dog school.
a dog school. That was probably one of the first dog schools ever originated.
And this was in the 1930s.
Yes, that was early 34, 35 in that area, because in 1936 I moved to Wisconsin.
Okay.
In 1936, up to in the area of River Hills,
Near Milwaukee?
Milwaukee, north of Milwaukee. I come down here because I looked and looked and looked at where I wanted to put some wood down in it. And during my wanderings and when I was in Ohio, visiting all the different states doing these bench shows, where is the best? Well, in Minnesota, it froze up a month earlier than down here in this area. In the Milwaukee, Chicago area is where there was financially more money, you might as well say, and more people. So, down, you froze up a month earlier in Minnesota, and you thawed out a month later. So down here in this area here, I gained 2 months out of the year of outdoor activity by moving to a new area down here where there was nobody. They didn't know what a kennel was. There was a bird dog trainer uh, that would go south for the winter and train pointing dogs up by Solon Springs, up north of Wisconsin. But I became and developed the first retriever kennel in the state of Wisconsin, where I did just training people. That was 1936.
And where was
So that was over in River Hills.
what was the name of it?
River Hills?
No, what was the name of your kennel, your training?
At that time, I think they made the name Dogs Unlimited.
Okay.
It was formed by 3 industrialists. They got me down to run there. Then it was like they all had their dogs on this one place.
Can we use their names?
I don't know. They're all passed away
Oh.
now, I think, and everything else.
Just 3 Milwaukee industrialists were the ones behind it because of their
Behind me, yes, that supported me and picked up because they wanted it. Naturally, the field trials, the first field trial held in the state of Wisconsin was in 1936. That was at Oshkosh. So I went to Oshkosh, and we had field trials in Minnesota just before that, and I was always helping at them, so I knew what they were.
Well, who decides who backs a field trial?
What field trial is a nonprofit association that
Is this
organized. It's like Wisconsin organized the Wisconsin Amateur Field Trial Association. Well, that meant that all the people interested in field trials would come together. There was hunting dogs being trained by that time.
but then where is the national headquarters of that, of the field trials?
Well,
In New York?
each state has their own. Yes. Well, then the American Kennel Club, the AKC,
Right.
sanctions
Okay.
those. So they have a position out there and a person that takes
Okay.
care of the field trial to keep the thing straight.
Okay. So you say the first one in Wisconsin in 1936. So that's when the AKC would have come in and
That's
sanctioned
right.
it.
And sanctioned that this group would hold a field. Naturally, me being the first retriever kennel in the state, most of the activities of the retrievers centered around there. So they used my training grounds. They used everything there. They come in, and so we held and that's just grew from there. Well, then naturally, every weekend in the fall, you go to Illinois. I had a big one already going.
Okay.
The field trials started in 1933 or 4. In New York, they started in New York, and then they gradually went up. I know in 1935, when I was still home, 34 and 35, they were in Minnesota at that.
Okay.
So I got a taste of what and worked like as a bird boy or something of that sort
To do it right.
to learn. Yeah.
Right.
And then by then it just grew. It was a bunch of interested people, but Milwaukee was the nucleus for the
Okay.
Wisconsin Amateur Field Trial Association.
Did you work with that up here on 67? That
Then,
area?
yes. Well, then now this goes on. So I was in Milwaukee.
Milwaukee, right.
So from 36 to 40, I was in that area. 39 or 40, I forget which one. Well, then I come out and I established a little kennel at the Perkins Game Farm up here, the Panama game fields, which was Irv Perkins' place. and on Highway 18.
Okay.
So what happens? The field trial crowd followed me, and then we had our meets all on that property. So then that was where I was, because wherever I was, it seemed that I knew where the training, and I had the dogs, and I had the people, all the people that were interested in field trials, because at that time there was nobody else doing the training to of any scale or camp. So that's happened. But then when I bought, after 2 years running up there, I was always looking for a place to settle quick.
Yeah.
Well, I located this place. This was a little house over here, an old stone barn that was built before the Spanish-American War, and
This is right on Highway ZZ.
this is right where we are now. And so,
So you found this in 1940.
no, it was 42. I think I got to 42 or 43. What was in there? Who owned the property then? I think Art Stocks.
Could be. Yeah.
I think Art Stock. Yes, well, Art is still.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, this was the old Art Stock. I bought this from Art Stocks.
Sure.
But there, see, that property was farther up too. Well, there was a lot of it here when you look back in. But anyway, oh, well,
Was there a house here?
there was a house. I had lived here. I had since lived in the house over on the other side there, and,
Okay.
with a little house in the back.
Okay.
There was no plumbing.
Okay.
There was a dug well across the road. That was a gravel road over there.
How many acres were in the property?
40.
40. So it's still the same.
Still the same.
Okay.
And then I've added from here to 67 down. I added another 20 acres to it. So anyway, that's where I started right here. Then I erected this little bullet. And then the field trials, when you're talking about coming down to 67, then the Field Trial Association followed me here. And they used, I can still remember, there was this open field at right back of the house here. And one of the tests that was in what we call a derby stake, and the guy says, hey, well, that's far enough. He says, you can't go any closer. There's a house right there. I said, don't worry about that house right there. Well, he said, that's getting pretty close. He says, the people might object. I says, no, because I own it. And I said, you can, as long as you don't break the windows. And so that's what started. But these fields right all around me, and my ponds, and then we had the ponds over there. Then we used the springs down here. And then sometimes later on, we went down to use Eagle Lake down at the Tui Resort. And the whole nucleus of the Field Trial Association developed around here. Sasso's did the banquets. Francis there, we had our field trial banquets, and a lot of people. She did a wonderful job, all home cooking in the little kitchen. But she fed, oh my gosh, it'd be probably over 100 to a banquet. We filled the whole upstairs and the downstairs, and that went on twice a year, spring and fall. We'd have our field trial. Then they erected the shelter house up here by that little wayside park. That was a little. And then when they started.
This was all in the 40s.
Well, yeah, you're coming into the 50s now. I mean, we're coming up in the
Right.
late 40s and now in
Yeah,
the
the war.
50s. Yeah. And so that's how I still maintain, and then it grew and grew. So instead of me and a boy, it became another man and a boy. And then in 55, gee, I don't know when it is now, without looking up. I tried I had a lot of Minnesota business. Being from Minnesota, and everything else up there, I still had a lot of friends that I would train down here and deliver the dogs back in the fall to the people. They said, well, why don't you come up and run a kennel up here? I said, no, but I will assist. So I built a very, very modern kennel in Minnesota. And that took care of my people there. So I ran that, and I would go up and back and forth. And I had a manager, and I got my brother interested in that area. So it developed big. So then I had 2 kennels.
What was the one in Minnesota? Was that near?
North Oaks, near White Bear, between White Bear and St. Paul, North Oaks, so called it, the North Oaks kennel. So that developed very good up there, and that was high class. It was one of the first modern. Now, all the mistakes I made, now this kennel I built here was the first all concrete kennel built in the state of Wisconsin.
And when was this built? This was built in
43.
Okay.
43. Well, I built part of it, and then I had to make some money to build the next part. So 43, 44,
First all concrete.
all concrete modern kennel. And it was viewed, people thought the dog's feet would fall off running on concrete, but outdoor dogs went on turf every day anyway, so they don't, but the cleanliness was very important. Then other owners wanted to build a kennel like mine because naturally in the field trial game, a lot of people saw this place, and it was a show place. And it was
How many dogs would you keep in the kennel, or could you keep in the kennel?
this started out as a 50 dog kennel.
Oh,
Then I added to it. I wound up to over 100. I could hold over 100. And I had 4 people working.
okay.
But so that's how it built. But and then I had to go out now. The the kennels at Olin Industries. This is what they call nylon kennels. That's Olin spelled backwards. So John Olin, who owned Winchester Cartridge, put up a big kennel down at Alton, Illinois. All his engineers and from up here because I was training John Olin Winchester's dogs at the time, so they had their dogs full say. So I helped design, and they come up and took I think all the mistakes I made in this one because I had no pattern to copy, so I had to do it by trial and error. So we designed and built a big fashionable kennel in Alton, Illinois. Then I had the big one up in Minnesota, that one. Then I had to go down, and then it just I,
You were in the kennel building business.
yes, well I was like a fool, didn't take a fee. You did. You helped somebody out. The same as I'm helping my neighbor today. He helped me when I was gone last week, so I helped him. And that's the way we helped each other for many years. When we'd buy the cedar bedding, I remember I was the biggest importer. I'd get a carload of cedar bedding from the West Coast.
Because this would be the best for the animals?
Yes, cedar bedding. You know, it's a nice odor to it. Repels the fleas and all that kind of stuff. So I would order a carload from a friend who was training dogs and I was training his dogs on the West Coast, and he was in the shingle business, cedar shingles. So they have a little shaving called shingle toe. So he would tell me he'd wait till he got a half a car of an order for a lumber in the Milwaukee area. Then he'd fill the car up with cedar bedding for me, so I could just pay a very. Then I would distribute that to all my friends in the kennel business here too. They'd come up and get 5, 10 bales at a time, and oh gosh, that went on for years.
Or can I ask you, in the years that you've spent with animals and the many experiences that you've had, is there any one incident that sticks in your mind or any one animal that you particularly remember because it was outstanding or because it was different or
One of my oldest was a golden retriever called Goldwood Windsor, and I was in Minnesota at the time. I was 35, 36. That was in the spring of 36. I had him, and then he moved with me when I come down here in 36. That young dog come with me, but
he was your dog
no, he was owned by the president of the Parker Pen Company from Janesville.
from Janesville?
Janesville Ship. Well, he was at that time he was secretary and treasurer of it. Then he later became president. And that dog was with me, always with me, and wherever we went, now in the sport shows, the field trials, any activity when I wanted to show what a good dog should do, he was my instructor. That dog, with all his travels from Boston to Los Angeles to all over, whenever I come to this place, or if I come a back road to Janesville, that dog knew where he was exactly all the time. He had hunted all over, so I think probably one of the greatest retrievers of my day was a golden retriever, Goldwood Windsor. At that time there, because he lived to a little ripe age of 16, and I'd say he had 14 good years of life with me, where he'd be with me all through, then the owners would take him home, and even during the field trial season, when he was in competition, he would hunt with his owner during the week, and I would use him on the weekends. And totally a different thing of training. I mean, the dogs in competition. So and then that was in the golden, and then in the high class field trial game, a dog called Black Panther was owned by a little fella out in South Dakota. And he became the greatest winning Labrador of the country ever had. They finally had to go out and run an 8-year-old dog every day, every trial, trying to accumulate quarter of points to beat his record by 1 point. Just so they could hold it, but he still holds some of the most outstanding records.
How do they give points to in?
What how their speed, their desire, their calmness, there's all that. Well, then they place them. They place them 1, 2, 3, 4.
So it's a
And
complete judging.
they're judged by 3 judges.
I see.
And then you retrieve. Now you have to have at least 2 what they call open all age wins to be a field trial champion. And so you amass 15 points, okay, by point system.
Is there anything here, or being that this is for the Eagle Historical Society, is there any person from around here or any dog from around this Eagle area that might fit into?
Besides me.
Besides me. Didn't say that.
You didn't say it. Naturally, Eagle would be interested in the field trials. Now, having the banquets there brought an awful lot of visitors from all over the country into Eagle to buy gas, to have lunches at Sasso's or what, and then it became Toohey's resort. Mary Ryan was there then, and even Brian Toohey. Now, Brian was alive at that time too, and the golf course was closed in the winter and the fall, so we trained. There was nobody living on the island up on that peninsula. That was turned into a handler's. They come on here a week or 2 ahead, and they would well, they
live
just rent
around
the
there.
cabin.
Okay.
They'd batch it in there,
Okay.
and then up at the golf course or someplace, then Sasso's fed them. They'd go to Sasso's for lunches and whatnot. So no, the Field Trial Association between here, handlers from all over Long Island to California to everything else would come in, and they would.
So in the late 40s and 50s, this was really a winter resort.
Right, Eagle was known. Now that put Eagle on the map. I can remember Eagle when it was only 300 and 400 people. But through the association of the press, or the field trials at Eagle,
Okay.
and by indirect,
Okay.
the Eagle became on the map from Boston to Los Angeles. So that, and then plus Frances Sasso, Ma Sasso, as everybody called her, was known for her delicious dinners, lunches, and whatnot. She was invited. Then when the Wisconsin Amateur Association had a banquet in Milwaukee, Frances had an invitation to come. So it was my job to see that Frances had a ride to the banquet and everything else. So she could be waited on by the association who she waited on there. So they swapped. But no, Frances deserves a lot of credit for the welcoming of the dog business too. And even then, my association here at the kennel, I depended on Sasso's an awful lot of food for when we'd work our dogs or we should be shooting and there was a lot, and lunchtime come, I call up Francis and say, we got so and so for dinner. Sure. Hamburgers to chili to whatever we had. And down we go. And,
All right. Oh, and what do you see as far as yourself and as far as the future of the dog business, the future as far as Eagle, the future as far as this area and what we're talking about? Are people still interested?
not much. They no. I quit because the expenditures got too heavy. The game restrictions are less. When all this was taking place,
Okay.
100 could shoot 10 ducks a day. There was plenty of wild game. There was not, you weren't walking on anybody else's property. And even the properties were so vast, the farms and everything. So there was not, you could go out and do that. And so then money became a big object. People started buying money. And then people started, even in competition.
Okay.
I wouldn't say judges were being bought, but things were being so they could win. Then it became solely a ribbon hungry game.
Okay.
It was not the sport. But we were all a family. My gosh, we didn't have to say mister to our owners. I can remember the days in Long Island, we'd go out to that pretty stuffy out there on that Long Island circuit. We were servants. Now we're in a profession that there's no school to do. Nobody. As one fellow says, we are more desired than a doctor because doctors can go to college and get a lesson in dog training.